Now, have you noticed a growing trend in America? White supremacist organizations are popping up all over. North, South, East, West, racist groups are gaining traction.
Now, if there's one thing Republicans hate more than anything else, it's being correctly labeled as racist.
Now, I'm talking about white supremacist book clubs, white supremacist bowling leagues, white supremacist garden clubs, even edgy new fashion trends for white supremacist spring breakers. There are white supremacist daycare centers where the snacks are obviously white rice, milk, yogurt, potatoes. You get the point.
Look, I know Laura Ingraham is doing a bit here, but unironically, there's a ton of white supremacist institutions all over the country. Are we really going to pretend that, like, homeowners associations aren't deeply racist at their core? Are we really going to pretend that there aren't a ton of country clubs across the country that are very, very much white supremacist in their nature? I mean, seriously. This is not something that has cropped up. This is something that people are talking about more now, and so, of course, Republicans pretend that all of this is brand new. But, like, half of the Republicans on Fox News are literally old enough to remember living in sundown towns. Quite literally, sundown towns reached their peak after the first Star Wars movie came out. So we can't just sit here and pretend that there aren't a ton of deeply racist organizations out there. And yes, even small things like bowling leagues can be deeply racist. It's not surprising when you consider the fact that we very much live in a white supremacist society where all of the baseline assumptions that people have about the world are fundamentally racist.
True white supremacists, real racists, have been, thankfully, shunted to the extreme fringes of society.
Oh really, have they? Is that why you have a show on Fox News right now, Laura Ingraham? If white supremacists really were forced to the fringes of society, I don't think Donald Trump would have ever been made the president.
But to listen to the Democrats' messaging heading into 2024, you think our nation is about to be taken over by men in white hoods.
Is she really going to pretend that there weren't a bunch of, like, over-the-top racists that stormed the Capitol on January 6th? Are we just going to, like, just completely ignore that reality? I mean, I guess we are. It's Laura Ingraham, so of course, she is.
Even if there are no white hoods and these supposed racists are black and brown people.
Being Hispanic or being black does not, or being anything, does not make you immune from being racist, from being radicalized, from being a white supremacist.
Part of understanding the Latino blog is understanding that we too can be racist.
Yeah.
We too can feel white supremacy.
We've seen a number of individuals who are clearly Latino, or at least of Latino heritage, who are white supremacists.
Well, of course, racial bias exists. It always will, sadly, and it does to this day. But what the press surrogates for the Democrats are getting at here goes much deeper. This is an effort to inflate its prevalence or to excuse or deflect from the destruction wrought by Democrat policies.
Okay, so this is another example of right-wingers getting angry at something that is obviously true. Literally anybody can support white supremacist beliefs regardless of who they are as a person. I mean, just taking the case of trans people, for example, Blair White is a trans woman, and yet she literally spews transphobic nonsense for a living. Same thing with Caitlyn Jenner. She does a ton of transphobic nonsense. It turns out that humans are not, like, perfectly consistent creatures, and not even necessarily creatures that are always going to be defending their own interests at every step of the way. Especially when there's a paycheck to be had for people like Blair White and Caitlyn Jenner, who do want to throw other trans people under the bus.
Now remember, to question the left's cultural Marxism is to be called white supremacist, pure and simple, or, of course, anti-gay. To question quotas, well, the same thing.
Now, the real irony behind this is the phrase cultural Marxism is actually something that very much is white supremacist in its core, because what it was originally called was Judeo-Bolshevism. It was quite literally a Nazi conspiracy theory that they used to spread this idea that there's a secret group of Jewish people that are communists and they're trying to replace white people and they're trying to turn people gay and trans and communist. So no, yeah, using the phrase cultural Marxism is quite literally peddling an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, which definitely falls under the umbrella of white supremacist, and I think is really perfect racist icing on this cake. Because as she is going on this tirade about how dare Democrats call us racist, she literally is pushing a Nazi conspiracy theory. And so just as a random aside, if you ever hear anybody utter the phrase cultural Marxism, just know that they are peddling a Nazi conspiracy theory that literally comes out of like 1930s Germany. So yes, Laura Ingraham, the unfortunate reality is there's a lot of white supremacy in our society today. But of course you want to deny that reality because at the end of the day, Laura, if you want to see a white supremacist, you just got to look in the mirror.